Celtics Talk Podcast is presented by 24autogroup.com. 11 locations across New England.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of the Celtics Talk Podcast here on the NBC Sports Boston Podcast Network. And I'm decompressing. It's trade day, trade deadline day. It's been a crazy day. Get the final total. I think someone said it was 16 trades. I think it was like 51 second-round picks got swapped around the league. And 27 of the 30 teams in the NBA were involved in a trade in one form or another today. And there were some periods where it just felt like a blizzard of trades were going on, and it was hard to keep track of who was going where and why teams were making deals. And every time you just kind of get caught up from one, it felt like another came at you. The Boston Celtics do make a trade and land Mike Muscala. I got Robb, Robb from MassLive. He's going to jump on with us. And we're going to talk about the trade, but then we're going to spin it pretty quickly because I know how this works. Celtics fans, you got through deadline day. You might have some feelings about whether you love the pickup of Muscala or we're yearning for a little bit more. But I know what you're on to. You're now combing the internet, looking for potential buyout market guys. The Celtics still have an open roster spot, so we'll get into that. You'll hear some clips from our trade deadline special. Abby, me, Scalabrine, Eddie House. Breaking down some of the bigger storylines of the day. But let's just start with the Muscala trade. And before we get to B-Rob, I just want to kind of, my feeling was going to bed last night before the Kevin Durant craziness overtook the internet and really lit the fuse on deadline day. You had to feel pretty good about where the Celtics were. I kind of rewound in my mind to a week ago, and here come the Nets on your tail, and you got the Philadelphia surging, and you've got Milwaukee creeping close. It's like, all right, so this is how it's going to be. The Eastern Conference is going to be even harder than it was last year, where the Celtics had a pretty daunting path. But then over the course of really 8 days, the Celtics dismantle the Nets, and literally and figuratively, because they, in the aftermath of that loss, they trade Kyrie to Dallas, they trade Kevin Durant to Phoenix, and so they're kind of off the board. They might be a pesky little, I don't know, late seed team, maybe drop into the play-in. They do have they have a bunch of wings. I think they might only have wings at this point. So we'll see what they are, but they're certainly not the level of potential that they were before. And then Philly was exposed as the frauds that they are, as we talked about on last night's post-game pod. Essentially, they've feasted on inferior competition, but we saw it. Celtics were down 4 starters in the second half of that game, and just with Luke Cornett at not even 100%, held off Joel Embiid in the Sixers. So I can't get worked up about them. So I think it really feels like a 2-horse race in the Eastern Conference. And so as the West loads up on this deadline day, I mean, look at it this way. You don't have to worry about that until June. All right, maybe the Suns will be great. Okay, cool. See you in the finals. Maybe the Lakers will be better with the 50 moves they made to rearrange their roster. Maybe Denver will continue to be good, and we'll see how they do without Bones and bringing in Thomas Bryant, how that all looks. But right now, it's not the Celtics' problem. And the Clippers, too. Let the West figure itself out. The Celtics, it feels like, just got to figure out how to keep pace with the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, the Bucks did add Jae Crowder today, and look, I don't know what Jay's got after missing a bunch of time here at the start of the season, but I know he's been super impactful, and he's typically very good on that playoff stage. Feels like they got a little bit better. They can limit Grayson Allen minutes. That, to me, is the Celtics' primary competition. And so that's where my focus is. It's how do you survive the regular season? How do you get to the postseason? How do you take care of business until it starts to come down? And it's going to be, to me, it's going to be Celtics Bucks. And how do you match up? Are you ready for that matchup? I hope we get to see it. Mike Muscala, how does he factor into all this? Well, gives you another big that can shoot the 3-pointer, will play some steady defense. He's another sort of guy with I always call it the Derek White syndrome, where they bring him in because he's got these great metrics, and you can tell when a player. I'm not saying he's going to be as impactful as Derek White, but his splits with the Oklahoma City Thunder were very good. Always a net rating darling. And so maybe there's a chance that the Celtics can tap into that a little bit, maybe put him with the second unit. The one thing I keep going back to is the Celtics have 5 back-to-backs over the finish line of this season, over the final, let's say 26, 27 games here. And so that's 10 nights where you're probably going to be without Robb or Al, because Robb's been sitting in the front end, Al's been sitting in the back ends. And so now you have another big body to throw out there, and we'll get into it. Maybe they add a wing at the buyout, maybe they go add even more size, whatever it is. You just feel like the Celtics were already improved their depth from a year ago, but it takes another step forward with Muscala. It doesn't cost you a whole lot. I'll be left wondering. This is what I really want to get into with B-Rob. Did the Celtics, should they have pushed a little harder for a little bit more of an impact player? And I think there's some reasons why they didn't. Chief among them is that you couldn't really spend a first round pick without compromising your ability to take a bigger swing down the road. So I think they made the right decision in terms of maybe settling on a little lesser of a player, but a guy who's going to fit the locker room, has a relationship with Al from Atlanta and OKC. But we'll see. I don't suspect that Muscala is going to tip the balances in the playoffs. That's going to just come down to if your top 8 is healthy, if your top 8 is playing well. But we got to figure. I need to call up B-Rob, find out what he thinks of the Muscala move, what he thinks about Pirtle landing in Toronto, and what he thinks might happen next with the buyout market. Let's get into that interview with Brian Robb.
Look no further than the award-winning 24 Auto Group. With over 2,600 vehicles in stock, the brands you love, backed by the savings and service you can count on. Visit today or shop online at 24autogroup.com.
We're kicking off fall with big savings at State Line Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram.
Lease a new Ram 1500 for $369 a month during Ram Power Days.
Hurry in, and you'll be saying,
I got mine at State Line.
All right, B-Rob, you know how Celtics fans work. Their minds immediately, as soon as the trade deadline's over, on the buyout guys. But I need to start with today's craziness. We were joking before we hopped on about Kevin Durant ruining your REM sleep for the night. What's your general take on the Celtics making a move to pick up Mike Muscala and being sort of a quieter part of a crazy deadline day?
I don't mind it at all from their perspective, given the fact that you look at what was moved and for what over the course of the day, and it became clear that in the big man market, I think for a couple of second round picks and not taking away any part of your core right now, Muscala is probably gonna be the best you could have done there. And that's the way I've kind of view his acquisition, is like it just allows them to play a different way with a big man in terms of, we know Luke Cornett is, I think, exceeded a lot of expectations in terms of being that, backup center on nights when Robb or Al Horford can't go. But now you have a guy that can kind of do different things in that kind of role. Muscala, who clearly spread as a floor, has been a great spacer for OKC for the last few years now, even during their tough stretches. And he's been playing the most time of his career. And I'm going to guess he's going to have plenty of wide open shots. So for the Celtics to get that, for just a couple second round picks, to still keep Peyton Pritchard in the fold for, insurance debt purposes, and maybe just as a spark plug purpose, I don't mind it at all when you compare it to some splashier moves made around the league.
Peyton Pritchard screwed himself when he showed that he could stop Joel Embiid
right?
as a one-on-one defender. At that point, Brad wasn't trading him, knowing that, I think there was a game last year where he had a bunch of steals as a doubler on Embiid. So yeah, you start showing that potential, and Brad's not letting you get away. So he's just gonna have to wait. Maybe the offseason, maybe Brad makes him wait till 2024 or longer. But no, the one name that will. Let's start with this. I think it was Danger Card had the great tweet. Ryan Bernardoni said something like, "You comparing Muscala to dollar store Kelly Olynyk."
Yeah,
and it really is like the perfect analogy or perfect way to describe it. Because the thing that made me intrigued by Olynyk, and I think I told you this the other night, was the flexibility, right? Like you could play him with Robb, you could play him with Al, you could play him with Grant, and they didn't have a big like that really kind of meshed with everybody. I mean, Al, obviously, but like the ability to really kind of mix and match because you don't know who you're going to be missing on a night-to-night basis. And if you got a Jared Vanderbilt, you couldn't play him with Robb, so he's just kind of like Robb backup, and so you just run into issues. It feels like Muscala can play with everybody, and so that's a good thing. But people are going to be angry that to see Pirtle go for what was probably less than what we expected on the market. I mean, there was no way they were jumping into it. As soon as the first round pick was involved, they couldn't touch their powder. They need to keep that dry, right, for future seasons.
Yeah, I think that it's just a situation where if you're not going to make the long-term investment in the player, you're going to keep that. You're not going to touch that. And once the Raptors, and even if they did throw the first round pick, I think what looks better, a Toronto first round pick in the future, or so the
Yeah.
Celtics right now. And even then, they threw in a first in 2 seconds. So that was, Birch's is not a good contract. So I think they had to pay the price to get off of that. But even on top of that, it was a situation where we've seen that Brad Stevens likes to maintain its flexibility for future drafts down the line in terms of how they've done deals in the past couple of years around draft time. So they keep that future flexibility as opposed to tying themselves up for years. And so they do that here. They have, all their first round picks intact after this upcoming season, minus the San Antonio pick swap down the line. And so,
which is when you want to move anyway, right? Like it's almost like you're double dipping. I keep waiting for the Celtics to trade that pick, because I think it's going to become a pattern around the league where you kind of put it in a pick swap, but then like if you were to move that tomorrow, no one's sitting there going, well, it's a 2028. No, it's like, it's still a first round pick. And I think you're getting like almost not double the value, but value and a half out of it. You help get Derek White, and now go use it on something else. So I agree. I think just once you get through the 23 draft, now 24, 26, 28's on the table, boom, you're in the running for whoever's out there. And it didn't feel like, Raptors don't end up moving OG. Like besides Durant, I don't know if there was a prize out there. And so I kind of get the Celtics decision to just sort of sit idle and let the West load up, and we'll see how it all plays out. But like I said, invariably the wheels start churning. You've already got your list up on MassLive of buyout guys. Who should I love and who should I start stumping for? Who do you think the Celtics should be looking at?
Well, you got to start with Russell Westbrook. That's number one on the
no. That one.
No, he's not.
Point guards. Someone tweeted me today. Said John Wall. Yeah, John Wall, and then
you're trying to piss off Payton Pritchard even more right now. What are we doing here? I don't like all the point guards on this. There is a lot of I think there's gonna be a lot of bigs too that not appealing bigs, but your Dwayne Dedmons of the world and Serge Ibaka's, and there's a reason why they went and got Mike Muscala, because it's like these guys are gonna be available for a reason. But there will be intriguing point guard names. I don't think the Celtics will go after honestly any of them seriously. I think you're looking at just wing guys. Is it Danny Green is obviously going to be the popular name. He's probably going to have a ton of suitors lining up for him. I'm not sure what he has left. Have you seen him play yet? I know he's played like 5 or
I think he's
games.
played 3 games he played, and nothing more than like 15 minutes. Certainly that's my fear, is that as much as he has the playoff pedigree, as much as he brings size and defensive versatility, like everything you're kind of looking for, coming off an ACL injury, it's just, you worry about throwing that guy right into hey, we need you to defend situation. And maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe you're just looking for somebody with experience, someone who's going to fit. It feels like, he's been in a million locker rooms, so he's going to mesh with them. And I wonder we do have to, headline all this talk with Celtics got that disabled player exception. They'll be able to outbid a lot of the teams out there. But to your point, a lot of guys are going to be looking like, how am I getting my next contract over these next 22 games and into the playoffs? And so it's going to be a balance. Like, does 35-year-old Danny Green want to have a bigger role, or does he want to have like another championship? And so I'm very interested to see which way that tips. Like, Will Barton, same deal, like was the huge contributor for Denver last year, goes to Washington, hasn't played, knee injury at some point. And so I don't know what will allure to some of these teams, but I know the Celtics are still the betting favorite in Vegas. And so I wonder, as much as most guys will go, I want to go play for the Phoenix Suns because they're going to need some help, I do wonder if the Celtics can find a guy on that. And it's got to be a wing, right? Like, and Scal was saying, maybe you go big and add even more, because we didn't get the pure size. But I keep saying the Luke Cornett on at 90% with one ankle just shut down Joel Embiid. I'm not really worried about the big man position.
Right. It's hard to envision, like, you're not going to do much better than Luke Cornett did against Embiid last night. And you're not going to be facing a ton of those guys in the playoffs. You're going to have to be probably facing, if you're going to face Giannis, you probably want some more mobile bigs beyond the Al Horfords in the world and the Robbs of the world, that all guys are going to be throwing at Giannis in a series like that anyway. So I think, the wing with Justin Jackson out the door, with Jaylen Brown dealing with an injury for, you only think a couple weeks here, but that's just a position where if you want to give him and Tatum a night here or there and not lose sleep over it, if you're Joe Mazzulla or Brad Stevens heading over the home stretch of the regular season, just having an experienced guy that can give you 10 or 15 minutes in that night and not, make you more vulnerable from a size standpoint. So you can like Barton, Green, Terrence Ross. I don't know if he's going to be out there. Yeah. I feel like the Celtics will be underdogs to land any of those guys because of Phoenix and other teams out west that will be hungry to and potentially offer a bigger role than just emergency minutes. But they certainly should be kicking the tires on any one of those if they become available.
My litmus test is which dude can play defense 5 minutes a night that will give Mazzulla the confidence to keep him out there and let Jason Tatum rest for even that just 5 minutes. And, if then they get a few minutes of offense if they get to do it. And I don't know, no one on that list, like definitely screams like I can do that.
Defense.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? But that's why you're on a buyout list when there's only a serviceable skill set that you have out there. Do you worry at all coming out of the trade deadline? The Bucks add Jae Crowder. I don't know what Jae Crowder has left in the tank that hasn't played at all this year. I assume that, he's a pretty motivated dude. He's going to be an upgrade over some of what they have. Less Grayson Allen minutes has to be a good thing for that team. Any concern about what the Bucks' potential is if they're healthy and adding a guy like Crowder?
The Grayson Allen, you just stated perfectly. Like anytime there's less Grayson Allen, that's bad news for Boston.
Yes, exactly.
That series, but Crowder, when that's the biggest addition to an Eastern Conference contender, I don't think you're not worrying too much right now about that. The Bucks, they have gotten their act together. They've won a lot of games lately to put the pressure on the Celtics here, but I don't think we're going to be talking about 33-year-old, like I don't even know how old he is at this point, but I don't think we're talking about a guy like that potentially swinging a series at this point. He gives them an additional, crunch time 5 option if that 3 ball is going, but at this stage of his career, you don't worry about him being a shutdown option on like Brown or Tatum over the course of a series. So it's better than do you like him better than McDaniels with the Sixers? Do you feel like who's a better fit there?
It's so funny. Like long term, I mean, it's easy, right? Like I'm really high on McDaniels blossoming into something, but he also just got scored 51 points on by Tatum like 2 weeks ago. And some nights it's just like tippy cap Jason Tatum. But I also don't think McDaniels is the answer to Philadelphia's problems. That runs much deeper than just subbing out poor Matisse Thybulle, who I still can't wrap my head around, like just how he kind of plummeted and why he can't just be the defender that he was at the infancy of his career. But that lapse when he didn't see Luke Cornett coming for the 0.5 second left inbound dunk. Geez, I mean that might have been reason to trade him alone. But like
how did Morey not trade the whole bench after that game? Like I'm surprised there's all those guys still there.
Honestly, he should have gone the nuclear route. He should have been the one doing the Nets thing and blowing this thing up and then probably going to another team. But like, does anyone else in the East scare you besides Milwaukee? Has this weirdly just turned into a 2-horse race?
Until we see James Harden do something that in the playoffs that is beyond beating like a bad OKC team in a game 7 2 years ago. I think it's the 2-horse race. And now, if anything, that 1 seed becomes even more important because if you get that 1 seed, you don't even have to deal with the Sixers at all. And you're going to have to deal with the Cavs and a Heat team that probably didn't, that certainly doesn't scare you in that 4 or 5 matchup and weren't able to add anything themselves at the trade deadline today. So when you look at that part of it and being able to just, avoid the grind that we saw this team suffer from during last year's postseason run, that has to be top of mind right now with, just under 30 games left in the regular season.
Does Gordon Hayward get bought out?
Oh, Gordon isn't one to give away. I feel like he's always been, and this is to a credit, gets a lot of money. I can't see him giving back enough money to get back out there, but
I don't even know what his contract. I don't even know what his contract situation is. I just know that it's been floated. It's at some point, like what is Charlotte doing anyway?
Right. He honestly should because he's made so much in his career. Like I think he has a player option next year. It's like if you want a chance to win right now, like anyone would take Gordon Hayward coming off the bench.
Would the Boston Celtics take Gordon Hayward coming off the bench?
Of course they would.
Yeah, it's so funny because like I just because I like throwing random hypotheticals at people. I had a friend who was just like adamant, like, no way you couldn't go back down that road. I was like, are you kidding me? Brad's GM now. It's not like he's the coach and Gordon Hayward, I would not start. Like, they have a starting five. So you're just talking about the exact of what they need off the bench. It's like an embarrassment of riches. Before this turns into an aggregation situation, I do not think this is happening.
His agent will get very mad at him for giving up $31 million. I think
probably not. Could he give up $3 million and make it up on the disabled player exception? So I think because whether it's Gordon Hayward or someone else, there'll be someone else that lands on the buyout market that is somewhat attractive, and it might not. I don't think it would be a player as complete as that. But I'm just saying, this is why the Celtics probably felt a little bit more confident about, okay, got Muscala. We're not going to overpay for anybody. Let's just see what happens. And honestly, if the worst case scenario is nothing comes to fruition, and you just, take your 8 players and you hope you stay healthy, and you're probably playing the Phoenix Suns in the NBA Finals.
And on top of it now, more than anything else on this buyout market, if you want to win a ring, the Celtics look as good as anyone. This is the first time they can say that since in 15 years, 14 years, I guess.
Yeah.
Better than hopefully it works out better than Troy Murphy and Carlos Arroyo and whatever that vaunted 4 buyout player edition season.
I blocked that all from my mind. It's like because my running joke has always been that people get obsessed with the buyout market, and it's been 15 years since PJ Brown actually gave you something, and I think we need to stop obsessing about the buyout market. But it gets us page views, and it gets us listeners, and it gets us something to talk about through the doldrums of the NBA season. Last thing, what do you think Peyton Pritchard's reaction was when it hit 3:00 today? Do you think he was mad? Do you think he was just resigned to it? Do you think he I know he joked about showing too much in that game, but how do you think he's honestly feeling?
I think he's probably just mixed emotions. I think there's no doubt that he sees a light at the end of the tunnel for his career with more playing time, and he's eager to get there. But at the same time, when you are on the floor for a critical stop against a Sixers team, and I was half wondering, wow, is Joe Mazzulla going to play him in this entire game, despite the fact being down to 8 guys? You could see him really maybe stewing about that. But hey, if he keeps taking advantage of his opportunities and contributing when he has the chances for a winning team, he's going to get a chance somewhere else and probably better his chances of getting a decent contract somewhere else. So it's tough when the Celtics are in control of your fate for one more year, and obviously you'd like to have you for the insurance and for the spark, but that's, patience is sometimes the answer and may lead to better things for him.
All right. Well, while Jaylen Brown's getting fitted for his mask and figuring out when he can get back on the court, big week for Hauser, big week for Peyton. Still opportunities here to show you can play and earn your way into this rotation. But B-Rob, go back to, I need you to go find me that defensive-minded buyout guy and report back for me.
All right, we'll make some calls here. 3 second-round picks and it's done.
5 second-round picks. That's the theme of the day.
5.
All right, we got a list of a couple candidates up on NBC Sports Boston. I know MassLive, B-Rob, and his tag team partner, Suichi, put up a list of potential buyout guys. Go check all that out, because that's what will be dominating the conversation for the next week, regardless of how good the Celtics are playing. Who can they add to that 15th available roster spot? And it doesn't make sense to carry another guy on as they get ready for the playoff run. Let's talk a little bit more about the crazy deadline day. Here's some highlights from our trade deadline special.
The NBA trade deadline has come and gone, and the Celtics' one and only move made today was to add big man sharpshooter Mike Muscala. In exchange, they sent Justin Jackson and 2 second-round draft picks to Oklahoma City. In case you didn't know, Muscala, 6'11", 31 years old, shooting 41% from 3 over the last 2 seasons. Welcome in here to our Celtics trade deadline special. I'm Abby Chin. He is Chris Forsberg, and we will dive much deeper into Mike Muscala coming up. We also have Eddie and Scal standing by, but first of all, Chris, wild day across the NBA. I was up at 1 o'clock last night when the news about KD getting traded to Phoenix dropped, but I mean, since then it has just been Insane.
So I'll tell you a funny story. Giles asked me when we were leaving last night, he said, are you going to stay up? Are you going to be able to sleep tonight? And I said, no, I'll sleep like a baby. Celtics probably aren't going to do anything until tomorrow anyway. And then by the time I got home, KD had been traded, the first of 16 trades over the past 24 hours, and 51 second-round picks swapped around the league. It's been wild. It was fun. It is like Christmas morning to us, people that love the NBA and watching everybody swap. Do not ask me who's on what team because I cannot figure it out. I'm going to need about a week.
Yes, I think we all do. How hot was it, Chris? Let's take a look at the numbers brought to you by Eastern Propane and Oil. They're in your neighborhood. Like you said, 27 of 30 teams made a deal. Cleveland, Chicago, and Washington in the East, the only teams that did not. 11 teams made multiple moves, with Brooklyn leading the way with 4. I still haven't. I'm not sure what they're doing. 57 players moved overall, 9 first-round picks, and as you said, 43 second-round picks traded. It was crazy. Scal is here with me now, and Scal, let's start out west. Seismic changes. We know Phoenix adding KD, the Mavs with Kyrie, and then the Lakers getting rid of Russ. I don't know what the Clippers are doing, but what is going on out west?
Well, it's a race out there because there's an opportunity to win a championship. The Denver Nuggets are a really good team, but the Golden State Warriors aren't the dynasty that they once were. So I think right now, as we speak, we still haven't seen it, obviously, but Kevin Durant being on the Phoenix Suns, they have to be the favorites to come out of the West. If Chris Paul can stay healthy, Devin Booker, obviously, he's a bucket anytime. You add another guy in Kevin Durant. They have inside play with DeAndre Ayton. They have role players out there. So I like what the Phoenix Suns did. I don't understand why Brooklyn initially made that trade for Kyrie, to get rid of Kyrie, to try to appease Kevin Durant, only to trade him 2 days later. But hey, the Phoenix Suns, they were ready. They took advantage of it. And they're going to be probably right now the best team in the West, or at least the favorites to come out of the West with the additions. Are they the favorite in your mind? I mean, you look at that team, offensively, no question. Yeah, I'm all in on the Phoenix Suns on this one. How I believe in Kevin Durant. I think that could be at any given night one of the best players in the NBA, and I think that's the missing piece for Phoenix. Now, Chris Paul does have to stay healthy, but if you're relying on Chris Paul to go get you buckets late in the game, that's going to be a problem. But if the third best player is guarding Chris Paul, that's going to be a real problem. So Kevin Durant just takes a ton of pressure off Devin Booker, takes a ton of pressure off Chris Paul, and probably takes a ton of pressure off the DeAndre Ayton. So yes, I am right now stamping them. We haven't seen them, but I'm stamping them because on paper right now, looking around the West, and I love Denver. I do. And I love the addition of Thomas Bryant. I still don't think, I don't see how they would match up with those 3 offensive superstars when you're trying to pick your poison on who to stop. Stamp the Suns. Were you up at 1 a.m.? How surprised were you that all went down? No, I don't get up at 1 a.m. for nobody anymore, Abby. I'm old now, right? Yeah, I was still awake. No, that's not how I roll. But when I woke up, I could not believe that's what the Brooklyn Nets did. I was shocked that they would have made that move. Why? If that was the case, then why not go and get the 2027, 2029 pick from the Lakers? The Brooklyn Nets are emotionally running their team, and you just can't do that in this league. A very different story out east. Not many moves made, but you could say the 2 favorites in the Celtics and the Bucks bolstered their depth. What do you make of those moves? I don't really make much of the Celtic moves. I like Muscala as a player. I wanted more size. I know they were in the Jakob Poeltl sweepstake. I'm surprised that they didn't do what they needed to do to pull the trigger. And I'm really shocked. I think the Celtics were thinking, who else wants Jakob Poeltl but us? And Toronto kind of stepped in, which doesn't make any sense at all. I have no idea what Toronto Raptors are doing, right? But with all that, the Celtics still have the best team. They still have to be healthy. The same thing that went into the trade deadline is the same thing coming out of it. Those guys got to be healthy. Rob Williams, Al Horford, they got to carry a bulk of the load. But I like what Milwaukee did. I think Jae Crowder is a great addition. Jae Crowder plays with that edge. He believes that he's much better than he actually is, which is a good thing. And the fact that he could stick it to the Celtics, who, he probably, I don't know if he holds a grudge or whatever it is, but he could stick it to the C's and shut down a Jaylen Brown or shut down a Jason Tatum. That's exactly why the Bucks went out there and went to get a guy like Jae Crowder. So I like what they did. I think Philadelphia and Jaden McDaniels, I'm a big fan of him. They weren't going to play Matisse Thybulle, so I like their upgrade. And I liked what the Knicks did. They got Josh Hart. Like I said, I don't understand Toronto, and I clearly do not understand what the Brooklyn Nets are doing. Scal, thank you. Stand by. Don't go anywhere.
The Celtics do still have the best record in the NBA. Here's a look at the standings for the top 5 teams. The Celtics 1 game up on the Nuggets, but none of these teams made major moves, and the Cavaliers in particular made no moves at all. Back here with Chris now, and we're joined by Eddie House out in the Valley of the Sun. Eddie, what do you make of this insane trade deadline day across the NBA?
I was expecting a lot of moving parts, just because there's not a clear-cut favorite. Like we love to say the Celtics, right? But at the end of the day, will we say the Celtics are the clear-cut favorite to get to the finals? No, we know that they got to go through Milwaukee. That's going to be a tough team. Milwaukee, we can't say they're clear-cut. They're going to have to go through the Celtics. Same thing happened in the West. So you see all these moving parts. So I'm not surprised that all these. The one thing I am surprised at is that the Suns were able to pull off what they pulled off, and pull Kevin Durant over there with another guy, DeAndre Ayton. He's averaging 18 points. Devin Booker is almost at 27 or 26, somewhere around there. So now you got 2 guys teetering on 30, another guy at 20, and you have a table setter at Chris Paul, a clutch player, to where now when you manipulate that pick and roll and nobody's better than him at doing that, you're going to have to pick your poison defensively. And the key for the Suns are for them to stay healthy. But a lot of moving parts. I wasn't surprised. Everybody jockeying for position. When you talk about a league that has parity, this is the example of it, and this is what happens.
So the Celtics, here's my thing. I went to bed last night, and I'm thinking, all right, the 76ers are frauds. We saw that in the game.
Yes.
The Nets have dismantled. So I felt pretty good about where the Celtics were. And then they make the move for Muscala, and I'm like, okay, a nice little addition. But I am left yearning for a little bit more. But I will explain why they didn't make a move. Because you heard Scal say, I don't understand why they didn't necessarily jump in on the Jakob Poeltl situation. And I think it just comes down to this. The Celtics, because they've already spent so many first-round picks, if they want to take one more big swing of the bat, they got to wait till after this draft to really kind of package picks, 24, 26, 28. Now you're in the conversation for someone that is an all-star level player that you can add to your core, that could maybe give you just that much more ammunition moving forward and being a legitimate title contender. If you waste it now on someone like a Poeltl, who's no guarantee to keep after this season, you might be compromising a little bit of your future. Undoubtedly, though, Abby, I'm just like, I like Muscala. When I see the Bucks ad, when I see the West loaded up, I just wanted a little bit more.
They added Jae Crowder. Okay, we will talk more about that in the Celtics.
Wow.
I mean, who hasn't played all season? We will get into that. But while we have Eddie, in Phoenix, by the way, let's dive deeper into this Kevin Durant trade. So the Suns get Kevin Durant and TJ Warren, this blockbuster of a deal, the biggest one to go down in Phoenix since they acquired Charles Barkley. In exchange, the Nets get Mikal Bridges, who is a good player, both two-way player, Cam Johnson, Jae Crowder, who was then moved to the Bucks, as I mentioned, and then this is the key: 4 unprotected first-round picks and the right to a pick swap. So, Eddie, what is the vibe in Phoenix right now?
Oh, everybody out here is extremely excited. They feeling like this is their opportunity to win it. The window was there. They felt like they were one player away. Let's not forget, remember when Kevin Durant was a free agent, Phoenix was like one of the teams that were at the list where everybody was talking like he's possibly going to land in Phoenix. So I don't think James Jones ever took his foot off the gas on trying to figure out how he could maneuver his way to get Kevin Durant. Now, what the Phoenix Suns have done, I'm telling you, you got 2 years because Kevin Durant is getting older. Chris Paul is long in the tooth. So now, if you don't do it this year or next year, now you have mortgaged your whole future for this window. And if you don't get it done, it will be an epic fail for the organization. But for right now, for the excitement in the Valley of the Sun, where I live at, Super Bowl weekend, waste management is going on. A whole lot of things is going on. Nobody's talking about any of that right now here in Phoenix. Everybody's talking about this trade and the fact that they feel like this has put them over the top to win a championship. And a lot of people are saying it's going to be a Celtics, Suns. And I mean, I wouldn't be happier because I would be home, but at the same time covering us.
Boston,
and I feel like we got a great opportunity to beat them. But really, though, at the same time, you tip your cap to James Jones because of what he's done. But again, it's all going to hinge on the health of Chris Paul. And also Kevin Durant, who has been hurt here since he's got hurt in Golden State. Seems like every year something has been bothering him, and he's been getting nicked up a little bit. So, but everybody's excited out here in Phoenix. I mean, my phone has been going crazy all morning.
I'm excited because now I get to pack my flip-flops for the NBA Finals because we know it's going to be good weather out in Phoenix for that. So I can't wait for this. The other good part about this is if you're a Celtic fan, you don't even worry about the West until June. Let them figure it out. I know they loaded up. It's not your problem. The East is a little bit clearer for you now. As for Durant, Eddie, I feel like they just had to make this move. They had to kind of they were in this section of what's going on, what is their direction, can they get back to being a finals-worthy team after being there a couple years ago? And I just feel like this is a move they had to make, and it's a lot better to roll the dice with Kevin Durant than it is with Dallas is doing with Kyrie. And so I fully expect the Suns are the favorite coming out of the West now. We'll see how it all works together, but if KD's healthy, I'll be there. See y'all in June. Eddie, get that get your beach house ready or whatever. Me and Abby coming. Let's do this.
There are no guarantees, but this is a move.
First off, there's no beaches in Arizona.
There are lakes.
Just your pool house, whatever you got.
Okay, I got it.
There are no guarantees, but this is a move you make 10 times out of 10 to get a generational player like Kevin Durant. And then the Suns, under brand new ownership, Matt Ishbia, on the job for a matter of hours, days, and he gets to say the first move he made was trading for Kevin Durant, which is pretty impressive. But Chris, as you mentioned, the East, the story hasn't changed that much. In your mind, is it still the Celtics and Bucks and everybody else?
It's literally I already thought there was a tier going into trade deadline day, and now I think it's even more pronounced. You roll it back a week ago, I was sitting here thinking, man, here come the Sixers on your tail. You got this Bucks surging. If the Nets ever get their act together, maybe they could be a problem. And 7 days later, everything's blown up. No idea what the Nets are doing. The 76ers, I'll keep saying it. I'm not going to take them seriously until they actually beat Boston. And if you can't beat with no front court and 90% Luke Cornett, I don't want to hear how good Joel Embiid is. And I just feel like the roadmap is there. The Celtics had to go through the gauntlet last year. It should be a whole lot easier this year. You start looking at those playing teams, there's no team like Brooklyn last year. And so all the Celtics got to do is figure out, what's that Eastern Conference Finals? If it comes down to Celtics and Bucks, what's that going to look like? How do you match up and be ready for that? I can't wait for Valentine's Day, get a little slice of what we might be seeing to come. You thought I was going to say something else for Valentine's Day?
Yeah.
No, I want to see Celtics and Bucks, baby.
Eddie, what do you think?
Well, I think the Bucks got a little better defensively, right? And they already are a really good defensive team, and nobody really talks about how good Brook Lopez is a rim protector and what he can do, stretching the floor and things like that. So adding another 3-and-D guy, with Jae Crowder, to me, that helps them put them in that they already have been in the conversation. But what it does, it gives extra bodies to throw at Jalen, to Jason. So to me, that is something that, and we talked about this Forsberg, earlier today when I gave you a call. When I found out about that, I was like, oh, that was a good pickup for them because that's somebody on a wing side that we could use another 3-and-D guy. If something comes up in the buyout market, that's what you want to do. You want to try to look in that area. But at the same time, I think that we still have a team. We built depth. We've already had the depth that we've had, and we're consistent as far as we know what we're going to get from guys, right? And they know that the minutes that they're going to get, which is a huge, important piece moving forward. Because when you bring new guys in, they could feel like it's going to work. But remember, they got traded, and then all of a sudden they could be disgruntled. It could change the dynamic of a locker room. I'm glad that we stayed pat, but we can also add another wing player if there's something that comes up out there.
All right, trade deadline day never fails to live up to the hype. Today seemed especially crazy. So even though the Celtics were only a minor splash in that, hope y'all had fun with the craziness. Let's get back to basketball a little bit. Celtics only got a couple more games here before the finish of the first half, where they'll be at almost 60 games. And then the race starts. Come out of the All-Star break, and it'll feel like the playoffs are upon us pretty quickly. The good news for the Celtics, unlike a lot of teams, they don't have to reintegrate a lot of guys or figure out how it's all going to look. It's all about just getting ready and being ready for the playoffs when they come around. I need everybody to go like, subscribe, check us out on the YouTube page. We'll catch you next time on the Celtics Talk Podcast.